study session to order. The time is 5:31. Present are Catherine and Alex and myself, Thea. And tonight, the first item on the agenda, that is the approval of the meeting agenda. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay, that's 3-0. Okay, so then we have we move to public comments on items listed on the study session agenda. Do you have any public comment? Okay, then we move to the study session itself, which is a study session on Los Altos High School parking options.
Okay, we know that we've been talking about parking for a little more than half a year at Los Altos since they changed some of the restrictions around the school site. Board wanted us to look at potential options for increasing the student parking around the campus. If we want to do it next summer, we need to get started right now and to talk about some of our options. We think we know that what direction the board wants us to go in, but we just want to make sure before we proceed. And so with that, I'll call up Mike.
Thank you. And we'll run right through what we have presented. Thanks to QKA, who quickly put together 4 options that is attached to the agenda item. And then I'll be going over rather quickly is looking at existing, what was 12 tennis courts at Los Altos. This is the northeast portion of the campus, just to put it in context. 4 of those courts to the east or to the right in these drawings have been taken up for the last 6 years as a construction staging area, lay down equipment, have small offices, whatnot. So we've been operating with 8 tennis courts for the last 6 years during construction. So we're going to go through 4 options they presented, looking at various locations of the additional parking, as well as the number of tennis courts. So see an option with 8 courts, an option with 9 courts, an option with 10 courts. And I'll just walk through it, and really this is to leave time for board discussion or questions after I get through it. Okay. So option 1 that you see here before us puts the parking lot there on the right. It's actually utilizing the 4 courts currently being used for construction staging area. It nets you in the upper left-hand corner. Sorry, Bob, I know you scroll down, but it's 78 spots, 8 tennis courts, right? And all 78 spots are within this one contiguous area of the parking lot, perpendicular parking with access from Jarden using the existing driveway. So that driveway has pedestrians coming in, it has bikes coming in, it has some staff parking currently coming in. There's angled spots there in black. Our existing spots next to the softball field. So in this section, the lower right is the softball right field, outfield, the scoreboard right through the batting cage. But it's all in black lines is existing parking. So option 1 gets you 78 parking spots, preserving existing entrance. There's no separate driveway entrance elsewhere. So you take advantage of what's existing. We'll go to option 2. Upper left, it's on your paper handout, gives you 76 parking spots total, still preserves 8 tennis courts. What this option, though, does is it moves the parking all the way to the west. So to give you context, and I'll come over and point, but beyond this to the west is baseball field, so it moves the parking all the way to the west side. Again, it takes away 4 courts. We build back the 4 courts there in blue on the right. So we're left with 8 courts, but the parking is moved to the left, and it also, so you get 64 spots in that lot, and then you get 12 angled spots to fill in over here on the east driveway. So that's how you get to 76 parking spaces total. Understanding if you've ever driven in here, this angled parking is a little easy to get into, but then to get out, you either have to do like a 20-point turn or drive down and do a turnaround and exit currently. Doing this model 2, you can see new spots. Option 1, so around the same surface area, square footage, taking up 4 tennis courts, but a slightly different configuration, some angled spots on the east driveway, and then 64 spots where 4 tennis courts currently are. So that's option 2. So option 1 and 2 is comparable, left with 8 tennis courts. It's really just looking at what side that parking would be on if we wanted to go that route.
Mike, are you going to touch on advantages, disadvantages of each? Do you want to go through the whole list first?
Let's do all 4 options first, and then because there might be options that are immediately dismissed. And then you guys can ask questions or discuss advantages, disadvantages of each. Option 3, what you get here is 9 tennis courts. So build back the 4 that are existing or that were used for staging. These 4 black that are existing. Keep 1, and then you would remove 3 courts. So you'd be left with 9. This gets you 57 spots. Again, the 12 on each driveway, but we've reduced the entire 85 spots in the parking lot. And I'm just going to run through it. And then option 4 gets you the fewest spots, but it preserves the most tennis courts, short of not doing anything, and you'd have 12 courts. But this would be 10 tennis courts. It leaves us with 43 parking spots, again, 12 from the east driveway, plus 31. And you see in this configuration, it's smaller. So many spots for perimeter, you park out in the middle. So that's the configuration and estimate of spots with option 4. I will add with all of these options, these are just rough ideas, concepts, a little more than a sketch. It's not a handwritten sketch, but there are a lot of rules and requirements regarding parking that ultimately, whatever route we go down, would adjust the configuration. There's rules regarding how much shade needs to be in that parking. So shade can be provided by trees, but trees require planters and planter areas and curbs. It could be shade canopies. So that's a structure anchored in the ground, meeting all DSA standards. It requires accessible handicap spot or accessible spots, parking, both van and regular vehicle parking. It also requires EV, electric vehicle ready parking spots. So this is just all parking spots are created equal, not showing any impact on necessary shade requirements, but it was really to get in a very quick manner rough ideas of what 8, 9, 10 tennis courts could get you for parking. But that's a big caveat with any of these designs. When we actually go through it, we would have to submit it to DSA, and there are parking requirements in terms of new parking lots, like I said, accessibility, shade, EV ready spots. And then if we go to the last slide, just gives you, maybe we should have done this before the first, but it gives you context for total number of parking spaces. So this was born out of a count we initially had from QKA, coupled with Google Earth satellite counting, and then manually counting some spots. You know, depending on which fencing and which garbage dumpster was moved where, they might be off by 1 or 2, but you can see total for Mountain View is 465. Los Altos High School, 346 if we add the temporary parking area that was created last year where the photo used to be, which netted 46 spots. If one of them's a motorcycle spot, I did not count that. You get 392 total for Los Altos. So in terms of weighing a decision or looking at direction, it gives you context for what the 2 schools have. It's not news that Mountain View High School has more on-site parking. Mountain View High School is a bigger campus, more acreage in total. They have more green space. That's why we started building 2-story buildings at Los Altos far before we ever did at Los Altos, just there's a little more acreage at Mountain View. So trying to be brief, those are the 4 options. And I don't know if Mr. Volz, if you have more to add, or we want to open it up to discussion or questions.
Equal number of spots between the schools is a goal, then we want to go with option 1 and 2. Option 1, the positive with option 1 is that it's currently not being used as tennis courts. And so demo work, everything, we don't have to worry about the other courts. However, it means we're sharing a driveway where bikes and pedestrians are coming through. There's a crosswalk just to the north of that. So that is potentially a challenge. QKA is going to talk to their traffic engineers. They may advise against it anyways. If you look at option, so the downfall is that the shared use of that driveway between pedestrian and bike. If you look at option 2, the nice thing about that parking lot is just to the west of that parking lot is the main entrance to the school. It's close to the baseball field. It's close walkway to the field hockey and lacrosse practice fields. It's a short walking distance to the football field, the main entrance. It is a nice secondary lot for all of the activities that happen on campus. The downside with that is that we would have to create a driveway from Jarden onto the school. We hope to get a lot of cooperation from the city of Los Altos, since they're the ones that created the situation. In conversations with my counterpart, I don't see that as a potential problem. But you never know, things change. And so if you were to force a recommendation, it would probably be option 2.
And the difference is just you're losing 2 parking spots
It's
in between 1 and 2.
everything is estimate because of the things that Mike talked about, shade, EV spots, handicap spots, those kinds of things. But it's just a 2 or 3 spots.
But
yeah.
between options are equivalent, right? Consideration.
Drainage too. Drainage.
The money pits, as I like to call them, which is the what do you call those things?
Bioswales?
The bioswales, yeah.
Bioretention bioswales.
Which all the rainwater has to go and filter into the groundwater before it goes into the creeks. Special dirt and all.
Okay. How much?
The costs in general from QKA for those options is right around $360,000 in construction costs. I don't know.
That was total based upon square footage of the parking lot area. I haven't yet gotten an estimate on what just the driveway would be.
But the options 2, 3, 4 are higher in cost because of the driveway. I'm just trying to understand how to do the calculation. Need to find all of it.
Don't know what that extra driveway would cost. In fact, Mike and I were talking today, based upon what a traffic engineer says, we might be putting a driveway into the option 1 anyways, because they might say we're crazy trying to share a driveway with bikes and pedestrians. We might have to put it, if we decided to put it there, we might have to put a driveway in on option 1 as well.
Yeah. And that's where, as Eric was saying, partnership with the city, that's the city's right of way, their sidewalk. What requirements in terms of truncated domes and corners and other additions would be needed once you, touch their sidewalk and cut into it and create a driveway.
Okay, how would you like to date this? On order or something?
So I think the first issue is if we want to consider option 1, which would put bikes and pedestrians. Okay. You want to?
I do have questions about impact on tennis courts. So before all the construction, we used to have 12, right? Are we free to assume that 8 will be enough? What is the repercussion of going down to 8?
I don't know the total number of tennis players we have on the girls and boys teams. However, in order to have a match, there are 7 games going on at once for each match, varsity, JV. 4 singles and 3 doubles matches. So the minimum that you have to have
7.
in order to have 1 match going on, 1 level of competition going at the same time is 7.
And now you have that.
Mountain View
Correct.
has 7.
They had 7, still have 7 after we reconfigured them with the auxiliary gym construction.
Okay.
Yeah, since 2000.
Now, to be fair, some of those years were pandemic years, but for the last 3 years of actual regular normal competition, we've had 8.
Okay.
And we had and last year we had the NorCal champions in Los Altos girls.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, are there any, if we wanted to host a championship or something like that, would the number of courts preclude us from hosting any kind of NorCal championship or something like that for?
Because of how close those courts are to each other, even if we had 12, it would most likely preclude us from hosting any kind of championship.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else have questions? Okay.
I was trying to find out what we come up with is that 7 is needed for league play. You talked about you're talking about the main entrance being over here. On this, right?
Yes, the main walkway to the school site for pedestrians is that walkway right there,
And it's
and it's staying.
remove important access for pedestrians on the other side.
Yeah, Bob pulling up a Google Maps version right now. He's going to get on the satellite view.
And to me, it's really important, the bike safety issue, so that's why I would be inclined off the top of my head also.
So if you can scroll in.
And I don't, unless people are really hyper about how many tennis courts we have, which I'm sure there's a few tennis players that are. And to me, that's not as important as safety and more parking at this point.
There will be public outcry if we permanently get rid of courts. However, we are faced with a new situation in 2025 than we were in 2018
Or even way before then.
with the
And-
parking.
And we are always talking, and like, it's not nice, but people are comparing Mountain View to Los Altos. Well, it's not just have more of these than we do, or Mountain View has more of these than we do, of any different thing. And one thing they say, we have more, Mountain View has more parking places, so they want more parking places. So if you're gonna have more parking places, maybe you have to compromise in some other category. And they're still gonna have more tennis courts than Mountain View. Anyway, it's less. So,
Yeah.
if you just wanna keep it sufficient and equitable, is parking more important to us? And maybe it is.
Yeah, based on what I've heard from the community, which is only what I've heard, and maybe more people will come out and say they want tennis courts. I've heard that they want parking. So, and I agree with you that I'm reluctant to, as you say, do no harm. So I don't want to have bikes and pedestrians in conflict. So I'm inclined to go with option 2. Does anyone else have other questions or comments?
Yes, I do. Both options require traffic to intersect with bike traffic, correct? Because the bike lane is right between the courts and parking and the car traffic. So option in both cases, right? Any biker turning into the far right side of the bike lane or passage toward the school, I don't know what to call it. Yeah, right next to, right here, yes.
Yeah.
On both sides, they are going to intersect with the traffic on both ends, like anybody coming from the east as well as the west, right? If my directions are correct.
Not a traffic engineer, in all those cases, you would have cars have to turn from the street.
In both options, option 1 and option 2. How are we going to address that? And
We have the same issue at the front of the school as well.
yeah,
So, I mean, we have 3 driveways at the front of the school,
Yeah.
all in front of bike lanes. And
that's
I
true.
believe in the front of the school, students park either right next to the theater or they park in the front of the school underneath the gray cube.
Yeah,
Talk about the traffic consultant or traffic engineer, and you're still with the city to assist. you know, people that analyze this and understand this better should weigh in, but. You know, part of this is you have ways students access campus, right? So if you're coming from the east. Do you come in and turn from Jordan on the east driveway? Does anyone ever keep going, right, and come down that sidewalk that was more past the tennis courts? If you're coming from the neighborhood over here, do you turn in before you get to the tennis courts? Is there really a gap there where there's minimal traffic? I would assume pedestrians would definitely turn down the sidewalk. They would walk all the way to East Drive, and bikes might keep going because all the bike racks are there on East Driveway as opposed to that concrete walkway. That's more of a pedestrian walkway between baseball and tennis.
Yeah.
But yeah, either way, you have a bike lane on that side of the road where you have cars turning in and out.
So my understanding, and I'm not a traffic engineer, is it's different when you have an exit or entrance as to how drivers behave. So when they initially get into a parking lot, they may not be going at parking lot speeds, but as because in order to get to an option 2, to get to those 12 parking spots, you're going to have to drive quite a bit in a parking lot. So presumably you're not going to be going, by the time you get there, you're going to be going parking lot speed because you're going to have to go quite a while along this stretch to get to the 12 spots. And perhaps another option we could consider is having that be staff parking, maybe switching some of the staff parking around so that we know that we have adult drivers in those spots. That might be something else to consider.
Is that a possibility?
We could deem it staff parking. Getting staff to park that far away from their teaching station if they're early would be a challenge. Where students that know that they get a parking spot, they don't mind the walk as much because they're walking already.
Okay. Anyway, it would be good to hear from our traffic engineer as we go through. I mean, clearly we had questions for traffic engineer, so I assume that's part of the DSA process that the traffic engineer has to look at this for student safety.
You know, the spot.
Traffic engineer would not be required for DSA, that would be required by the city.
Okay,
The drive-
okay. So yeah, so we would get some answers, and I also know, right, the city closed all of this parking lot, made this no parking, and part of their reason was bike and pedestrian safety. So, right, is my understanding right there. So
it sounds like we agree that the most number of spots is what we want, correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so
I would think
we'll
that
continue down that path.
Yeah.
And we're very leery about putting that parking lot next to the driveway. So we want to explore option 2, pending working with the city, working with city engineers, working with DSA and so on. It sounds like option 2, we want to continue down that path so long as that's safer than option 1.
Yeah, that's right.
so
Okay.
Right,
Should
and
I-
the city will let us put that driveway in.
so this is a study session, so let's just take a straw poll.
Well, we got a consensus right there. So
You
Yeah.
we have a consensus?
Okay.
Cool. I just want to make sure.
Oh,
Stick with the 8 tennis courts and
I just want to make sure we have a consensus.
I didn't
'cause-
get a chance to speak, but I'm on board very much.
Great.
And that's what Catherine and Tita were saying, makes perfect sense. And I love seeing more parking options for our students. What I heard from the community is that broadly parking is such a problem for many, many students. And that seems like a bigger problem than the tennis courts, which you've already been living with. And, it's more than Mountain View. So, yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Does anyone else have anything else they would like to say? Okay. Okay, adjourn to closed session.
How permanent will this change be? Meaning that, how permanent will it solve the problem? Will we have to revisit this problem?
how prominent will it solve the problem? In the eyes of those people that think that parking should be our responsibility, I believe they will believe that MVLA is doing what it can. With the temporary lot by the visitors stands and this lot that will be permanent, I think that'll help.
Mhm.
64 students along with little brothers and sisters. Maybe it may help as many as 100 students being brought to school.
Mhm.
Well, so long as they do it within the new vehicle codes of 16-year-old drivers and notes and things like that. You can bring your siblings, but you need special notes for non-siblings. And I forget what the actual vehicle code says about that. Not that our high school students don't bring friends to school, but it's 70 more, it's at least 70 more students that get to drive to school than what we currently have. And for those
Big-
students going back and forth from Los Altos to Freestyle, that'll help for students that are, and it's going to help for activities on campus.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's baseball, softball, football. I mean, unique to this area is we play football games on Thursday nights, the same nights that volleyball games and field hockey games are going on simultaneously, and trying to get into that parking lot sometimes on a Thursday night is a challenge, you know, especially if there's practices going on as well.
I
Um,
don't want to point, but, because I would like to go on to close session, but, has there been any statistics, not that this affects my decision or my thinking, on now that we serve lunch to everyone, students not leaving in the middle of the day and just staying on campus to eat?
All I have is anecdotal evidence from the school right here, and there were a lot of students leaving for
Lunch.
fast food. Yes.
What do you think? Still people leaving for lunch?
The 46 temporary parking, are they going to be gone or are they staying long term?
They are temporary,
That is the.
but we
They're
don't
gone.
have plans we don't have plans to replace them yet. But those
So
are
we will-
temporary,
Okay,
those are temporary spaces that we were able to utilize from paving over an area that if we make it a permanent lot, we'll have to go through the same process we're going through now.
I see. So with this plan, we'll have about 422 spaces in Los Altos versus like 465 in Mountain View.
Not
Okay.
counting the temporary ones.
Well, that's why I asked. So I'm
Yeah,
assuming
got
that
it.
they are not going to temporary one, but if we add temporary, we'll be pretty much equal to
Yeah.
Mountain View.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, we don't have plans to use that area right now, so they'll remain temporary.
Right.
And I think to your point, right, we'd have to have more bond money to actually, which we don't have, or some other money coming in, maybe from new proposition to actually build something on that land that isn't parking. So that's
Well-
why it's temporary.
Well, Los Altos High School, the main need is a gym, right?
Yeah.
We need to figure out money to actually renovate properly the gym.
That's true.
Or maybe
I
renovate is
agree.
not even the right word, rebuild, I don't know what's the right word, but yeah, that's the immediate need.
Yes. And that's going to be a major project.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
but
All right.
that's one we need.
Anything else, or do I have a motion to adjourn?
You have a